Tornado on that one so far, and we're still about 12 minutes left on the tornado warning. Possibly we'll see that one extended as that storm still shows plenty of gusto, shall we say. Does not look like it's dying down at this point. If anything, it's becoming more and more well organized. They are saying in the last report that the wall cloud is becoming a little more disorganized as we're starting to see that other storm trying to pull energy away from it, so undercutting it, if you will. So let's put another tracker on it. For those who are just tuning in for us, we've got a very strong thunderstorm in progress out to the northwest of the Waco, Temple, Killeen area. A tornado watch has been issued for all of central Texas until 8 o'clock this evening for the potential of bad weather popping up. We've got one storm that has already earned a tornado warning. This one is out near Hamilton. It's in Hamilton County. It's moving towards the city of Hamilton. It will continue its eastward movement at about 30 miles an hour. That's going to take that storm back towards Rock House. And to the south and southwest of this, we're seeing some back building going on, and a couple of very strong thunderstorms have developed this afternoon as well, aside from the one that's over Hamilton County, down here in Mills County. Now here's Goldthwaite, and you see the blue there. That's very likely extremely heavy rain or hail. I'm probably seeing hail coming down, and this one is, as Jordan said, reports of possibly 2-inch hail being indicated by Doppler radar. This is not the tornado warned storm. This is the tornado warned storm up here. This one is a very severe thunderstorm, and as I was just mentioning before, eyewitnesses out there are seeing a wall cloud, but it is becoming a little less organized. Doesn't mean it couldn't pulse back up again, but right now it's weakened a little bit. This severe thunderstorm with heavy rain, a lot of lightning, strong winds, and some small hail very likely is moving towards the east. And again, it's moving at about 30 miles an hour as well. Moline, Evant, very likely within the next 25 minutes or so, you're going to see that storm moving through there. Here's our tornado warned storm. It is moving across northern Hamilton County right now. Very likely, and follow along with me here on our color key. You're looking at golf ball size hail, a good possibility just to the south of Pottsville. This did not take long for this storm to become extremely serious with very large hail in it, strong winds. Better than 60 miles an hour, a good likelihood of this storm. So we have a tornado warning that has now been extended until 2:45 as we anticipated for that storm. Out ahead, the conditions are going to be getting worse as it moves off towards the east. It kind of wants to make a little bit of a right-hand turn here, so its trajectory is going to be going towards the southeast, which takes it over into northern portions of Coryell County, and eventually over into Bosque County as well as that storm moves in on its trek. Two very large storms, one tornado warned, the other one severe thunderstorm warned right now, and it's just the beginning of the afternoon for us. This stuff began popping up on radar at about 1:40, and within 5 minutes we had our tornado watch box issued, and shortly after that we had a tornado warning for this storm that is in Hamilton County and moving towards the east. Please take shelter immediately if you're up in that portion of Hamilton County. The rest of our residents in Central Texas need to be watching the sky very closely. We've told you for a couple of days we think that this is going to be a very rough afternoon as far as the weather is concerned, and certainly is beginning to develop that way already. So a lot of the little communities right along Highway 84 will be affected by this storm. You've got Primella, you've got Star, you've got Pearl, Evant itself, and this is eventually going to make its way in the direction of Gatesville later on this afternoon. Right now it's extremely dangerous, and we're seeing the hot colors and the cold colors side by side on that, so that would certainly suggests some rotation. We've had eyewitnesses in the area not confirming any funnel so far, but they are seeing rotation in that wall cloud, and that would certainly suggest developing, maturing supercell thunderstorm out there in our western counties at this point. Bring you up to date. Tornado warning in effect till 2:15 this afternoon, and the second tornado warning until 2:45 as that storm moves out of the warned area and into the next warned area. Things will continue to be very volatile force across much of the area out west of I-35, right along the Highway 281 corridor.
Yeah, absolutely. The newest update says that the tornado-warned storm in Hamilton is maintaining intensity. It should move north of Evant. I keep messing up the name of that city, but it will actually cross 281 shortly. They're keeping their eye on it. Still seeing just a significant kind of supercell kind of rotating wall cloud around that area. And of course, if I go back to a more zoomed out view, kind of showing much of the region, a lot of these actual storms began rapidly increasing in intensity, and you can really tell it's really being fueled by strong southerly winds across much of the region. So notice places like San Saba, Lampasas, Burnet, they're already close to that 90-degree mark. Llano right now at 95. A lot of that heat as we go into the peak parts of the afternoon, that's going to increase the intensity of these storms, especially when it's being fueled by these southerly winds. Notice all the rotation right around Brownwood, Comanche, Goldthwaite, Hamilton. That's right where the low pressure system is regarding this entire system. But notice also just that kind of line of showers and thunderstorms and just how quickly it began to develop, and it's going to continue to develop and increase in intensity as it pushes farther into the I-35 corridor, and then pushing its way down into the Brazos Valley, I-45, but it's going to be a very quick moving system. Let me actually go ahead and pop up some of the cameras across our downtown Temple region, seeing if I can see any kind of activity. Not really much of anything right now. High humidity, very strong winds across the region as a result of it. If we actually look out toward I-35, still not really seeing a whole lot of activity. And of course, that's going to be a good news for now, but of course, this thing is going to continue to increase in intensity. If you guys are just joining us right now, we do have a tornado watch in effect. Every red county that you see, there is a tornado watch in effect until 8 o'clock tonight, because a lot of these showers and thunderstorms coming through along with this frontal system will have the capability of producing some of those isolated tornadoes. We already do have that one right now in Hamilton County and just south of Hamilton right now, so we are keeping our eye on it. All the yellow counties, more toward the DFW Metroplex, those are severe thunderstorm watch counties. So a lot of these thunderstorms, they're affecting all of central Texas and even parts of North Texas today. A lot of these yellow boxes, those are going to be severe thunderstorm warnings. Those are actually storms that have been capable of producing extremely strong winds, over 60-mile-per-hour gusts, and also over a quarter sized, like the size of an actual quarter in terms of hail. So about an inch in diameter for perspective like that. Here's our actual satellite radar. Notice a lot of the clouds beginning to basically accelerate ahead of the entire system. That's where we're starting to see a lot of the energy within the actual storm itself. That's what we call the convection. You have those very strong southerly winds going up into the cloud itself and basically expanding once it hits the top, so you get a lot more cloud coverage ahead of it. And that's what gives it that big ominous feeling when you see some of these large-scale storm systems begin to push through. All right, we still have that tornado warning. It is in effect until 2:45. Right now, the pathing of this is a little bit erratic. So originally, the path was actually moving toward the northeast a little bit. Now it's moving almost directly east. We're heading right toward, looks like almost Jonesboro, but if I go ahead and actually zoom in ever so slightly, we are starting to see that very strong hail core. We did see a solid hook echo. So the hook echo is what we typically associate with a lot of these extremely strong storms, and also it basically means, hey, there's going to be some type of tornadic activity showing up on radar here. We're also looking at the one right around Goldthwaite. You see both of those storms there still have a very intense hail core, and you can tell there's a hail core based on the very bright blue, kind of like almost like the sky blue. You have a lot of lightning in the middle of that as well, and we're starting to get a little bit of that lightning extending even beyond where we're actually starting to see a little bit of that rain. So the one in Goldthwaite, still solid hail core kind of pushing its way towards city center. Both of these are severe thunderstorm warned. Of course, the one right around Hamilton, that is going to be the actual tornado warned storm as it begins pushing through. And I'm noticing little bits of cells here and there kind of just popping up around the region. Overall, not too bad, but it's going to continue to increase in strength and intensity as we go throughout much of this evening. So here's what I got for you on radar, on the velocity readings of the radar. It's becoming a lot more pronounced right now. That very bright red and that very bright green. The green means it's moving toward the radar. The red means it's moving away from the radar. When you start to notice a lot of that together, especially the bright colors are going to be very strong winds. Yeah, we start to get a lot of that rotation across the region. It's kind of moving toward 281 as we continue along. I believe it's still moving at about 30 miles per hour. So it is a relatively fast moving storm compared to what we saw on Wednesday. So Wednesday, the entire system was pretty slow overall, slower than what the original models predicted, and that caused a lot of these storms to continue to produce large amounts of hail, flash flooding with lots of rain, and multiple tornadoes. With how fast this one is moving this time around, well, we shouldn't see too much of a threat in terms of localized flooding across the region or even the chance for significant tornadic activity. Nonetheless, though, here we are. We do have that tornado warning across much of the region, and it's going to stay in effect until about 2:45 this afternoon. So we're going to stay with you until this goes away.
Absolutely. Switch over to Max 1 real quick. Let me give you, there we go. We're looking at a tornado watch that's in effect for just about all of central Texas. The only exception would be Burnett, Llano, and Williamson counties. The rest of us are under a threat of severe weather until 8 o'clock this evening. To the north of us, you see the yellow. That is a severe thunderstorm watch for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we're concerned about storms right now near Hamilton and near Goldthwaite, which are moving back towards the east, which brings them along I-35 a little bit later on this afternoon. As it does make its way towards us, we can anticipate deteriorating weather conditions, much like we saw night before last. Here's the radar with temperatures around the area. Very high dew point readings as well. Once they start hitting the 80-degree point, dew point wise, then it's a very volatile situation. Strong echoes of rain showing up across Comanche County, down into Hamilton County, and into Goldthwaite at this hour as well. And a good strong south wind continues to be in the cards for us across the area. Wider look at the radar. Thunderstorm warning in effect here from Mills County over through northern Lampasas County and over into Coryell County, and then a tornado warning for kind of overlapping that same area as the other storm is making a little more of a right-hand turn as it progresses off towards the east as well. So it's taking a little bit of a south-southeast turn in the vicinity of that. Close-up look at the radars. We're looking at a line already developing and kind of congealing into one large squall line here from near Stephenville, let's call it, on back down through Hamilton County, then over to Goldthwaite, and moving pretty rapidly back towards the east. And that's what Jordan was pointing out, is that the forward progress on these storms is much more rapid than what we saw night before last. So we may not see the impressive rainfall totals with it, but I certainly believe that we're going to see at least, if not equal to or stronger winds out of this storm system. Still have not had confirmation of a tornado. We've had confirmation from storm spotters in the area that there is a wall cloud, and there seems to be some rotation in that cloud that kind of hangs down below the mother cloud. There's rotation going on there, but we're not seeing any funnel cloud that is stretching on down to the surface. So very windy conditions, rain coming down very hard, a lot of lightning in these storms. Again, we have a tornado warning in effect until 2:45 for a very dangerous thunderstorm in progress here in Hamilton and northern Coryell County out towards Evant. This is not the afternoon to be out on Highway 84 between Gatesville and Goldthwaite, because the storm is in progress in all that ranchland area from Evant back to Goldthwaite as well at this point. And further south, as you go down into San Saba and Lampasas counties, the conditions are beginning to deteriorate pretty rapidly. Put the tracker on the storm here near Goldthwaite, and it is moving towards the southeast as well, and should be moving through. Again, this is a very rural area, so it's going to be affecting Adamsville very shortly in about 10 to 15 minutes. The Hillsdale School, Rumley, near Topsy at about 20 minutes to 4, about a quarter till for Kempner, till 3, excuse me. Copper's Cove, you should be seeing this storm in your neighborhood about 10 till 3. 253, the Hobby Elementary, and KB Heights as well. Second storm, again, in progress in that area. That we're watching is very dangerous and making its way into Coryell County now. In general, most of the bad weather with this one is going to be to the north side of Highway 84, but you got plenty of storms to go around here from Stephenville all the way back down into the Texas Hill Country, and it's all marching towards us quite rapidly at this point. Ken, are you on Max 2 or Max 1?
I'm on Max 2.
Okay, and I'm on Max 1 there, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like right now on the velocity readings, we are getting extremely strong rotation. As a matter of fact, it looks like video from a spotter shows a funnel cloud getting, or a funnel getting very close to the ground in Hamilton, but they cannot confirm a touchdown. Right now, as of, it says 2:15, they showed a funnel cloud about a mile north of Evant.
On 281, yeah.
On 281. So, especially with that current velocity reading, this is it definitely looks almost textbook perfect in terms of the rotation across the region. Especially with it now kind of almost, the right word would be kind of like a convergence. So you're starting to see a lot of that red kind of converge with the green on the velocity readings of the Doppler radar. And you're also getting those very bright kind of pinkish colors and even the very bright, almost lime green colors. That is very solid rotation, very indicative of a funnel cloud as it's pushing its way through. So the latest update has actually kept that tornado warning in effect until about 2:45, but they have moved it again just north of Evant, right across the region, kind of pushing its way farther, almost right along, looks like Highway 84. So crossing 281, kind of pushing its way just a little bit closer to the southeast, right along 84, kind of pushing its way toward Permella, and even a little bit farther beyond that, especially if it maintains the strength that it has, might slowly push its way just north of Gatesville, given its current pathing. So let me go ahead and pop up that actual track on it. Yeah, we're looking at basically 225 heading toward Permella and Permella School, and then Arnett right around 231. So still very strong rotation within this actual storm. And we're also not just watching the rotation across the region, we're talking about anything outside of the storm too. We're talking about anything in the sense of not just tornadic activity, but also the rain, the hail, the wind potential within a lot of these storms. So kind of what I have here is an actual track more so on the larger scale of the wide scale cell itself. I'm including the one in Goldthwaite. I'm including the one, of course, in Hamilton with the extremely large hail core kind of pushing its way toward Jonesboro, probably already making its way through there. We're starting to see the outskirts of that rain barrier kind of pushing through, even making its way toward Turnersville within the next couple of minutes, as well as Peabody School. Again, same thing with the Friendship School as well. So we're starting to see just the outskirts of it. So you're starting to see very heavy rain across the region, as well as lots of lightning, especially located within the hail core. But notice this, I'm looking at a little bit of lightning just ahead of the actual rain itself. So you might not even see any kind of rain outside, but you are seeing lightning strikes just outside of the main cell itself. That's why we always say when you hear thunder roar, you go indoors, because even if you're not directly on top of the actual storm itself, you're going to start to see lightning. Lightning will strike. Lightning can strike as far as almost 10 miles outside of an actual storm. So that's why we say when you see lightning, you go inside. You want to make sure that you stay inside until it pushes its way out of the region. Latest warning popping up. Yep, they have confirmed that tornado warning still staying in effect until about 2:45. They just basically began to condense the warning a little bit more as we're getting an idea of the actual track of this system as it's pushing its way through. Here, I'll put this into motion for you guys so you can start to see just how strong some of that hail core is. It's really beginning to form right around just to the south of Hamilton, right along 281, kind of pushing its way toward 84 as we go into the later parts of this afternoon and evening. It looks like the one in Goldthwaite actually began to weaken a little bit, where I'm not seeing as strong of a hail core. Now we're still seeing significant hail coming across the region, but it's certainly not as bad as what we saw before. So that is certainly going to be some good news. So here is the latest velocity reading. Still extremely strong rotation right on 281. Looks like it's almost past 281 now, and it's just hanging to the north of Highway 84. Again, I got that track on it, pushing its way toward Permella right around 225, so within the next 10 minutes or so. Here's an idea of the latest hail track. So we are still seeing very strong hail core associated with the one as it's pushing its way along 281 as well as 84. I'm getting about ping pong sized hail, maybe up to about golf ball, even tennis ball sized hail. We're getting about 2 inches in diameter getting reported off the actual radar itself. So we are starting to see, again, damaging hail across the region being associated with a lot of this. As a matter of fact, here's a good idea. I got this graphic that shows the difference in hail sizes, basically what we've seen over the last couple of days. So it's typical during the spring and the fall to see anything from about pea-sized to penny-sized hail. Then we get to about the size of a quarter. That's an inch in diameter. That's already going to start to be on the severe status. So severe levels are going to be about an inch in diameter and higher. When we're getting up to about 2 inches, okay, we're starting to see about the size of a hen egg and even up to about a tennis ball. Now, if you guys remember what we saw on Wednesday, just a few days ago, we were getting baseball and softball sized hail. I got even a report or two of about grapefruit sized hail. Beyond that, the scale doesn't go any farther, but you kind of get the idea of what's going on. A lot of the extremely large hail, like anything over 3 inches in diameter, is going to be exceptionally rare. So we are still watching the idea of possibly damaging hail across the region. And it's all being fueled by those southerly winds across the region. So you have the very strong southerly flow causing nothing but just problems across the region. A good idea to actually think about how this works is to actually look into a thunderstorm itself. So we get a very flat bottom on typically most of these storms, but all the activity is going to be basically within the core here. So let's go ahead and zoom right into the core. We get updrafts. We get a lot of that frozen water droplets are swept up by the updrafts. That's the southerly wind that blows in. Additional ice layers keep forming because at this altitude it starts to form. Then as the updrafts continually kind of weaken or the weight of the hail gets too much, the hail then falls to the ground. And of course, the larger the hail, the stronger the updrafts, the colder the air in the atmosphere is. So we start to see, again, very dangerous type of situations where you're getting lots of that damaging hail all across of the region. I personally really like this graphic, Andy.
I was going to say, nice science lesson there.
Yeah.
Very good. Switch over to Max 1 for me here real quick. We'll bring everybody up to date if they're just tuning in. This weather is affecting just about all of Central Texas, North Texas, and South Texas as well, up and down the I-35 corridor. We are under the gun here for the potential of extreme severe thunderstorms to the point where they could produce tornadoes. So tornado watch is in effect for the red shaded area, and that's pretty much all of us here until 8 o'clock this evening. Stretches all the way over to Centerville and Fairfield, Buffalo along I-45. To the north you see the mustard coloring, into the south you see the mustard coloring. Severe thunderstorm watches for those areas. Not quite as severe, but still pretty bad weather for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Austin, San Marcos, and San Antonio as well, and points even further south. You see the smaller boxes here. We have warnings going on for very strong to severe thunderstorms in progress here. A tornado warning is in effect across portions of Hamilton, Coryell, portions of Bosque County, and pushing its way over to McLennan County as well for the potential of these storms producing a tornado. And you just watching, we have seen rotation, and a couple of times have even seen some funnel clouds, but no confirmation of any of that breaching the ground, but certainly is a very volatile situation for us. My computer's, there we go. Now it's starting to cooperate. Here it is, the large area thunderstorms that we're tracking on the radar showing up here from just to the north of Comanche on down through Hamilton County and into extreme western portions of Coryell County, almost on top of Highway 84 there and right along Highway 281, all moving back towards the east. It's a very volatile situation that we're watching here and closely watching for the development of new storms as we go through. Going to put this into motion for you now as we go through the next couple of hours. You can see just where all this action is going. Forecast models bring this line of showers and fully developed by about 4 o'clock, all up and down the I-35 and I-45 corridors from near Corsicana through Waco, Temple, Killeen, and on down to the Texas Hill Country. A situation we saw night before last. Wednesday night was a terrible weather day or weather evening for us, and this one is just now getting started. As we go through the remainder of the evening, it pushes over towards I-45 and down to the Brazos Valley, with the rain coming to an end and hopefully giving us a nice looking weekend as we head forward through Saturday and Sunday. A little wider look at our radar now. This is where the action is now. We've been watching some very strong storms up the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but this is where the action is here across our western counties. Severe thunderstorm watch, tornado watch, severe thunderstorm watch. It takes you all the way down into northern Mexico as well, as this is a very huge weather system affecting us. Closer look at this same storm. Tornado warning is in effect here across Hamilton County, over into Coryell County now, and beginning to spread cloud cover and rain into Bosque County. Southward it goes into Lampasas County and over towards San Saba as well. Forward motion on this, we've tracked it at about 30 miles an hour. You're going to see winds embedded in this as much as 50 miles an hour and large hail. We're seeing very large hail core showing up in the rural areas just to the north of Evant there. A lot of cattle ranching going on there, a lot of exotic hunting locations there as well. Stock tanks need to be filled. They're glad to get the rain, but they don't want to see the severe weather any more than the rest of us do. But that's what we're getting again this afternoon. Tornado warning in effect for this storm until, well, it says 2:30, but I think it's been extended now. Yeah, here we go, 2:45 on that one, and likely will be extended even further this afternoon on that one. We've got another storm down here south of Goldthwaite that is moving towards northern portions of Lampasas County and headed over towards Fort Hood. Will be in Adamsville about now, actually, if not already, moving through there, through Topsy at about 2:40. Kempner, you're likely to see this storm there on the outskirts of Copperscove at about 2:45. Same thing for the Cove itself, and continued movement as we head towards 3 o'clock towards the southeast at around 30 miles an hour or so. The models again, let me show you that if you just tuned in. We anticipate this thing to explode north and south and sweep across the I-35 corridor probably around 4 or 5 o'clock or so. It's going to take a while to get through, much like we saw the other night, but this is moving a little bit faster, it looks like, so maybe we can get out of the really nasty weather a little quicker than we did Wednesday evening. Wider look at our radar. Again, from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, they've got a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. We've got a tornado watch in effect for central Texas and another severe thunderstorm watch that takes you through the remainder of south central Texas and down into northern Mexico around Del Rio there. The front itself is still out to the west of us. This is a Pacific front that's getting a lot of push as it comes into Texas, running into a very moist, very unstable atmosphere here. Lots of Gulf of Mexico air in place here. So you've got a pretty good contrast in air masses with a storm coming on through. Close up look at it. We're warning here. And unfortunately, this is, in most cases, unpopulated ranch land area. But nonetheless, we have a tornado warning, and we're obligated to stay on the air and bring you the details on it. Seeing perhaps some circulation there along Highway 281 just to the south of Hamilton at this hour. This is the one that we are warning for a possible tornado. We've had multiple confirmations of a wall cloud. A couple of eyewitnesses have seen a funnel trying to dip down, but nothing that has made it to the ground so far, at least since the last time I looked at the chat room. Jordan, anything new?
No, I am getting with the actual storm itself as it's slowly pushing its way into McLennan County. They are getting reports of about almost 3-inch diameter hail, maybe 2 3/4 inch diameter hail. They call it destructive in all caps. So especially with anything over 3 inches is already exceptionally rare. But at this point, we've been seeing that for the past couple of days now with how strong a lot of these storms are.
So this is the area that Jordan is referring to, extreme western portion of McLennan County. It does not show the storm over us yet, but nonetheless, the clouds and the rain are moving into McLennan County, and the hail is being produced by that leading edge of that storm. Take a look at this. There's our chief photographer, Rocky Bridges, out on the road. He's chasing these storms. I spoke with him before he left. He said he was heading towards Gatesville, so I'm going to guess that's where he is.
That would make the most sense to me, considering that's the exact direction of where we're starting to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
He's currently north on 36.
Yeah. That's what I just said.
And you can see just how strong, even just outside of a lot of these storms, you could see just how dark those clouds are as they're starting to push their way throughout much of the region. Still, I will say I'm looking at velocity readings popping up, and they are just extremely strong across much of that tornado-warned storm. Let me go ahead.
You folks probably recognize the video there. That's on Highway 36. He's already passed the Grove and getting very close to North Fort Hood, moving in the direction of Gatesville to try to intercept some of this action that's going on in the Gatesville area along Highway 84 and points eastward. You can see how dark those clouds are. So far, he's in a dry area there. He's not running into any rain yet.
That's certainly good. It looks like that they are going to continue that tornado warnings in effect for, of course, Coryell County until 2:45. Still, they've basically, if I can talk today, have made the area a little bit more condensed within the actual warning, as it's slowly pushing its way right along. Looks like Highway 84. It's almost directly on top of it right now, kind of heading its way toward Gatesville within the next, looks like 15, maybe 20 minutes or so, if it continues in that direction. So certainly extremely strong winds across much of the area, and that's going to include places, even well outside of the storm itself. So let's go ahead and switch on over to Max 2, because we do have some very strong winds kind of popping up right about there. Again, you see that good convergence right there. Extremely strong winds associated within the actual storm itself. So we are still seeing a whole lot of activity across much of the region. Tornado warning, here's the old warning, the new warning, just right on top of 84 to the north of King, north of Pearl, right on top of Permella. Again, just to the east or just to the west of Adder and Arnett, kind of pushing its way toward Gatesville. So we are going to continue to keep our eye on it as the evening progresses. Of course, we're still seeing a whole lot of activity as this evening goes on, because there's just so much of this. So let me go ahead and actually pull up a zoomed out view of the actual storm itself, because we are seeing just how strong of a hail core this entire thing is. So let me actually go ahead and go right on back. So if you guys are just joining us, we do have a tornado warned storm right now, and of course we have multiple warnings and watches. So let me break it down for you. We have that tornado watch in effect until 8 o'clock. That's going to be for much of the central Texas counties all across the region. Anything in the red here. Off to my right hand side, your probably left side of your screen, you're seeing video footage from our chief photographer Rocky Bridges as he's heading toward Gatesville to see any kind of activity associated with this tornado warned storm. A lot of these yellow boxes that you're starting to see right around Hamilton, Meridian, Gatesville, kind of pushing its way into McLennan County, that is actually going to be severe thunderstorm warning. So what constitutes a severe thunderstorm warning? Basically, if you have winds over 60 miles an hour, wind gusts, that is about 60 miles an hour or stronger, and if you have hail over 1 inch in diameter, which is about the size of a United States quarter. Here is our wide-scale look at the system. Basically, we have a low-pressure system sitting just out to the west, right to the west of I-35. And then we have the stalled out frontal system with a cold front just to the south of San Angelo, with a dry line just south of San Angelo, and of course we have the high pressure associated with it as it begins to push through. So extremely strong storms as they begin to move into the area. Here's that tornado warning right now in effect throughout much of the region. We're starting to see right around Jonesboro. The hail core is starting to push its way into the region. The Pomelo School, lots and lots of lightning across the area. Remember the old rule, when thunder roars, go indoors. The one around Goldthwaite has basically kind of already passed through. It looks like it's weakened significantly. We did have extremely strong hail cores a little bit earlier. That does not look to be the case right about now. So that is certainly actually a good situation as we move along. Here we go with our tornado warned storm. I'm still seeing extremely strong rotation within our actual velocity readings right there. It's certainly not looking like a very healthy situation. I don't know. Have there been any confirmed reports of anything on the ground, Andy?
No, not yet. In fact, they dropped the warning for Hamilton County, but they're continuing the warning out ahead of it. They're dropping the thunderstorm warning for Bosque County now. But continuing the warning for the destructive winds across Coryell, Hamilton, and McLennan. The Hamilton-Coryell storm keeps trying to touch down, but we're not getting... okay, let's take... Yeah, there we go. We're getting some social media photos. This is near Evant of the storm. Take a look at that, Jordan.
Yeah, you can definitely see the wall cloud, especially on the one on the far right. With the actual satellite, you can see just that rotation around it. That's indicative of what could typically form a tornado right in the middle of that. You have just the right amount of rotation. But I mean, you can still have rotation. That was about 15-20 minutes ago, but still very impressive structure with some of these storms for considering just how quickly they developed as we went along much of the area right now. It's certainly quite impressive, especially considering how fast this entire system is moving. Typically, with a lot of these extremely strong showers, thunderstorms, you name it, it takes a bit of time before they begin to develop to such a severe level. Of course, here we go. We got those hail cores. They are extremely strong just to the north of Evant right now. Right again, about golf ball to tennis ball sized hail. That severe thunderstorm warning is staying in effect. It looks like they have issued the new tornado warning just now. That is now extended until about 3:15. It is going to include a place like Ardent as well as Gatesville, heading toward Flat, pushing its way into McLennan County. So certainly a dangerous situation. You want to take cover, stay away from windows, make sure you have your shoes on, all the good stuff, Andy, right?
And with that southeasterly turn there, folks in northern Bell County can be expecting deteriorating weather conditions as well. Looks like Rocky's getting into Gatesville now, and looks like the streets might be a little bit wet. They're getting a little bit of rain going on there. Do me a favor, let's switch back over to Max 1. There are more of our shots there. Hey, this is a huge line of storms. It's just now beginning to really mature. It's going to extend back to the south, probably into the Edwards Plateau before the afternoon is over with. That's why we have severe thunderstorm watch in effect for south central Texas and all the way down into the Winter Garden areas into northern Mexico. Our area and just about everyone in central Texas is covered by, you see the red box here, that is the tornado watch that's in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. That means conditions all across our area are ripe for extremely dangerous thunderstorms that could produce tornadoes. Certainly they could produce hail as well. And to the north of us, we continue with another severe thunderstorm watch that's in effect for the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way up into the Red River counties in North Texas. And here you see our chief photographer, camera GoPro set up on his dash. He is in Gatesville and heading towards the storms there. I think he has made the turn onto Highway 84 and is moving towards the west there. So he is heading into these storms that are progressing towards him. Very large hail can be anticipated in this stuff. We go in closer on the radar, and it's pretty self-explanatory when you look across the top here. It says tornado warning with an arrow that points right down into this storm. This one has had a history of wall clouds, tight rotation. It had kind of loosened up a little bit, which would mean that it was becoming a little less organized, but still, nonetheless, it was trying to produce a funnel just outside of Hamilton and getting close to the Coryell County line, but it never did. Therefore, they have extended the tornado warning back to the east even further, and as Jordan mentioned, we've got that tornado warning that'll be in effect for probably another 45 minutes or so, and beyond that, we could see it extended over towards I-35 as well. This is not going to come to an end anytime soon. I keep mentioning what we looked at night before last, and this is the same scenario. That frontal system moved on off, gave us the pretty weather conditions we had yesterday. This is now our second front of the week, come rolling in here and giving us the same type of spring weather pattern scenario with extreme thunderstorms and possible tornadic activity. We're getting reports from just outside of Evant to the hail to the size of a teacup. That's close to baseball-sized hail showing up in that storm, and you can see how intense the storm is, moving away from Evant, almost straddling Highway 84 there, moving in the direction of Gatesville pretty rapidly. That's the big difference between this storm and what we saw on Wednesday. Wednesday's storms are very slow moving. It's set up, have very heavy rain across much of the area that went on from 4 in the afternoon until almost 8:30 on Wednesday evening before we finally saw it making its way over towards I-45. This is moving a little more rapidly. We haven't seen as much development back to the north, but what we do see is storms very near the center, the low pressure center of the storm system, the cold front that's coming in. The low sitting just out to the west of us here, the cold front drooping off of that down into northern Mexico. So the whole southern half of the state's going to be affected with this system as it comes on through. And very likely you'll see storms in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as well. If you happen to be on the road going there, be mindful that the weather conditions aren't going to be getting any better until later on this evening from these storms. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect for areas just outside of the tornado warning. We got a tornado warning here again to specify for you. This is Evant, and that's Coryell County, and moving over into the extreme western portions of McLennan County is where the thunderstorm track on that system will continue to go as we go through the evening hours. Tracker now on this storm that has been tornadic warned. It puts it through Gatesville right now, and that's probably what you're seeing here from Rocky's camera on the dashboard of the news unit moving through Gatesville. You can see the leading edge of that storm making its way in there through Mound and Leon Junction probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, and I would sure think that Oglesby and Woodson should see the storm conditions deteriorating as well, or the weather conditions deteriorating just as well as the storm moves in there within about the next 20 minutes or so. Again, the whole area, and we're talking about, here's Clifton on down to the I-35 corridor from Waco on south through Troy and Temple and even towards Georgetown. Very likely going to see some very nasty weather conditions. Wider view on this, a little bit of wraparound moisture showing up on the back side of the low pressure system through the Texas Panhandle, but in between, considerable cloud cover. You see, this is the leading edge of our severe weather, stretches from just south of Dallas, near the I-35Y there, just north of Hillsboro, through our western counties and down to the Texas Hill Country, and we really do anticipate further development on the storm back towards the Rio Grande and then sweeping on through Austin and San Antonio and down towards the coastal plain as we get into the evening hours tonight. This is going to be a quick moving system. We had thought that maybe it was going to hang around a little bit longer tonight, but as it continues, we do anticipate growth on this storm to affect all of the I-35 corridor, in our area particularly, with very heavy rains, strong damaging winds. Have we seen any estimates on the winds in these storms so far, Jordan?
Most of them are showing about 60-mile-an-hour gusts, and that's just because that's radar indicated, of course, from the severe thunderstorm warning. I do have now with the actual the tornado warned storm It's about 12 miles west of Gatesville as of a couple minutes ago, and it's now moving east about 40 miles an hour. So we're still looking at this thing starting to pick up speed a little bit. It was actually only about 30 miles an hour not too long ago. So it's certainly some of that activity is beginning to ramp up across the region.
Well, our chief photographer is in a news unit, and you see that his video from the camera mounted on his dash. He's heading right into the storm there, moving towards the west from Gatesville as the storm is west of Gatesville and moving towards them. I think I saw a flash of lightning there, didn't you?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go full screen on that if we can, because it looks like he's definitely approaching some of the area. Those are some pretty dark and ominous looking clouds as he's continuing to drive through. Of course, leave this up to the professionals. Do not go out and try to chase storms yourself. This is, of course, a very dangerous situation. We want to make sure that you guys are indoors, that you are away from windows. You make sure that you cover up your head, especially if you are in an area where the tornado warning storm has been issued. You want to make sure that you are inside. A good way to cover up your head, basically use anything that you have. It could be something as simple as a bike helmet. I mean, motorcycle helmet would be sufficient as well. My father works in construction, so when I was a kid, he had construction hats laying around, something to protect your head. You know, if you want to feel like Superman, go ahead and pick up a mattress and put it over your head too. That's going to be the best way to keep yourself protected. You can just see just how dark those clouds are across much of the region. Looks like he's starting to see a little bit of that rain come through the area, but we're not seeing a ton of activity as it begins to push its way through. It looks like a lot of people are driving away from the storm. That's going to be the most ideal situation. But there's also going to be kind of a catch-22 when it comes to that. You don't want to be out on the road if you are within some of these storms themselves. A lot of these storms are going to be extremely strong. So you're going to have some very strong kind of outflow boundary winds. So as a lot of the winds kind of come up to fuel the storm, they're going to have to leave the storm itself. So what does that mean? It means you can get what we call gust fronts. Those gust fronts are going to cause a lot of that wind to basically come out from the storm and just on the leading edge of it, which can easily produce something like 60 mile per hour to even hurricane force winds before the storm even actually makes it to you, which is why we can expect, with how fast the storm is moving, that wind and hail damage is going to be the most significant across the region, especially with possibly falling tree branches and everything like that. And you can see there looks to be a lot of people kind of pulled over on the side of the road. Those all look like some type like storm chasers as well. They're trying to get an idea of the situation. Well, looks like even Rocky's pulling over to kind of get a better view of what's going on.
Yeah, I just mentioned to our dispatch to tell Rocky that it looks like the circulation is going to be passing south of Gatesville near Fort Gates and north Fort Hood. And that would, what you're looking at there would confirm that, because he's on 84 heading west, and certainly looks like the darkest part of the storm, and what certainly looked like a wall cloud there hanging down below it is heading to the south side of Highway 84. And you see out ahead of it clearing skies and the rain shield ahead of it.
Yeah, you can see just how rain wrapped it is too. Across much of the region. You see a lot of that rain too. So that's why it's very hard to tell, especially with trained storm chasers, to see if there is any tornadic activity, because when you have very heavy rain around a cell like that, you can't tell unless you're inside of it. And of course, when you're inside of it, that's going to be the most dangerous situation. So the last thing you want to do is get out of your car when you're in that. We're starting to see a couple of raindrops as well as it's beginning to push off, but still, definitely a very strong, well-developed cell across much of the region. Again, you said it's now moving south of Gatesville.
Yeah, the thinking is that the worst of the storm is going to miss the city of Gatesville as the storm is likely, and certainly looks like it's passing south of Gatesville.
And we're still getting reports of lots of that rotation. You can almost see it right on your radar, Andy. You can really see kind of that almost the wind direction right now is kind of rotating just to the east of Gatesville. And that's amazing that we're able to pick that up even just on surface wind. So it kind of shows that it's definitely a very well-developed, very strong wind. Might be a little bit more widespread, but that's probably also because it is a supercell in and of itself, and we're still getting reports of lots of that hail falling down across the region. This is certainly the most impressive out of all of the actual storms along that line, especially as it begins to move through. Still starting to pick up a lot of that activity. It's still severe thunderstorm warned as well. That severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until about 3:30, while the tornado warning is only in effect until about 3:15. Nonetheless, though, even if it loses the severe status, we're still talking strong winds, at least small-sized hail if it loses the severe status, but it's certainly something you don't want to just take for granted. Right now, it looks like we're on Max 2. We do have the idea of literally just south of Hamilton, very strong reports of hail damage across the region as well. Here's our current velocity readings. Still very strong rotation. Definitely looks a little bit more generalized across the area. Definitely wider, but still extremely strong. You're getting that very bright lime green kind of turning into almost blue. And then you have that very bright red turning into that almost pink. That is extremely strong rotation. And you can see on our camera over here that, yeah, it's exactly that. We're seeing a lot of that rotation within the actual cell itself, and it is wrapped around with lots of that heavy rain. So putting the track on it, kind of pushing its way again almost south of Gatesville, right around Gatesville Elementary School. It should be right around Gatesville now, but just to the south. I believe that's Highway 84. I could be mistaken, as it's continuing to push its way through the region. It seems like Rocky is getting hail right now from his car. Starting to see a little bit of that hail starting to fall down. It's hard to see. Oh, yeah, you're starting to see it hit the ground out there.
This video coming to us live from our news unit on Highway 84 there just to the west of Gatesville. You're watching the downshaft of rain. That's not a tornado. That is just the very heavy rain that's falling there, curtain of rain south of the highway, and some hail is beginning to show up in this storm. The heart of this particular storm looks like it's going to pass to the south of Gatesville, but we're anticipating extreme winds and hail to ping pong ball size, if not larger, over the next half hour to 45 minutes or so as this storm makes its way through that area between Gatesville and Lake Belton and Temple on its way towards Interstate 35. Winds to 65 miles an hour, highlighted in all caps, destructive conditions making their way through Coryell into McLennan County and the extreme northern tip of Bell County. With this storm, you're going to see flying debris that's going to cause more damage across the area in its path. In addition, you're going to have the hail, much like we saw night before last, and the very heavy downpours of rain, and plenty of lightning as well in this storm.
Yeah, it looks like the latest storm report, we're getting about golf ball sized hail. It reports just about 10 miles west of Gatesville near Arnott in Coryell County. So, and that's exactly what it looks like as we're watching the footage from Rocky's truck.
Rob, let's punch up Max 1 here, and I've gone in tight, and this is what Jordan was mentioning here. You see our wind particles, those are the little arrows showing in, and you can see them really rolling into what seems to be the center of this storm just to the north of Adamsville, between Adamsville and Evant and Gatesville here. This is a leading edge, very heavy rain and hail also in this storm. The storm is tracking back towards the east, southeast at about 30 miles an hour. Winds embedded in this storm, better than 60 miles an hour, can cause considerable structural damage. Hail is being reported up to the size of teacups is what they're describing that as. I would say it also is about the size of a baseball. In this storm, the good news is, if there is good news, this is mostly a rural area. It's not completely vacant. So if your farmhouse happens to be in the way, be mindful that you're going to have damage coming very shortly here. So move to an interior room of your home. Put as many walls between you and the outdoors for your safety in case we get flying debris and tornadic-like conditions. So far, we have not had a confirmed tornado touchdown. We have had eyes on the ground say that they have seen funnels dipping down out of the mother cloud, but not quite reaching the ground. We have not had any confirmation on that, but certainly the Doppler radar is looking inside this rain, inside the cloud cover, and certainly seeing rotation going on there. And if you look closely at the video that's coming to us from our live news unit over in Coryell County on Highway 84, if you look close, you can see a little bit of rotation going on in that storm. So this is what he's watching there. Rocky Bridges is our chief photographer. He is out west of Gatesville now, and he is looking at that storm. That is right about right here, what he sees. The cloud overspreads back to the north across Highway 84, matching up just with what you're looking at in that video. And that wall cloud, or the very heavy rain shaft, is what we're seeing on the extreme left-hand side of the screen there, with winds at the surface really feeding into this thing. A lot of moisture, a lot of warm air coming into it. Indications are we might have another area of rotation a little further back and to the north of it, but no confirmation on that. But it certainly looks like there could be some kind of rotation, back over into Hamilton County there, or close to the county line at the back edge of that storm, maybe.
That's what it looks like right now. We're still starting to see kind of that low pressure system right behind it. That's really the main source of the rotation. But of course, when we're getting reports like that, we start to see a little bit more defined rotation across much of the region. Here's a wider look at what exactly is going on. And I pulled up temperatures, and you probably think, well, why do temperatures matter when it comes to severe storms? As a matter of fact, they play a very large role. So notice I got the wind directions, the wind arrows. They're coming up from the south-southeast. That's bringing in a lot of moisture right off the Gulf of Mexico. That's typically what we lead to very humid conditions. Then we start to see even far warmer conditions to the south. We're talking Lampasas, Burnett, Llano, getting up to those upper 80s, low 90s, even mid 90s right now. So extremely strong, very hot and wet air. This is really beginning to fuel the extended, the expansion of a lot of these storms as they push closer to the I-35 corridor. If you are just joining us, we do have a tornado-warned storm right now near Gatesville. It looks to be moving actually to the south of Gatesville, so that's certainly some good news, or at least a good start right now. We still have high humidity, very strong winds right now. I got a live look at Temple right now, not seeing a whole lot of activity, but as you look farther out to the west, we start to see a lot of those very dark, ominous clouds pushing through. On your left side of the screen, you see our chief photographer, Rocky Bridges. He is out near Gatesville right now, tracking our storm as it begins to push through. So what I got for you guys is a whole lot of colors here. So let me break it down for you. A lot of the red actual counties, those are going to be under a tornado watch. That's going to be in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. Any storm that's going to develop here does have the potential to produce tornadoes. Obviously, that is exactly what we're seeing just to the south of Gatesville. Now, a lot of the yellow counties to the north and to the south, those are going to be severe thunderstorm watch counties. Basically, any of those storms can hit severe status. We are seeing both of those here in Central Texas. Wider look as to exactly why this is happening. So we have this large-scale system, basically low pressure sitting out to our west with a cold front just south of San Angelo. You got the dry line below it as well, and then we have the stalled out front sitting right on top of Central Texas. So you combine all of this factor with the unstable atmosphere kind of brought in by the warm and wet air from the Gulf of Mexico. you get a recipe for severe thunderstorms and also some of those tornadoes as well. Zooming in a little bit closer, we're starting to see a lot of that activity mostly near Gatesville. We're starting to see even near Arnott and even Adder. Very strong hail core to the north of it. We did see a little bit of activity near Goldthwaite that is beginning to kind of basically fall apart right now, but still lots of lightning, even just ahead of the storm. That's where you want to see right along Highway 84, farther out to the east, heading out toward McLennan County. You still see actually a lot more in terms of lightning. So that's the rule. Thunder roars, go indoors. And when it rhymes too, makes it even better. What you're seeing here, a lot of that activity pushing farther to the southeast-ish direction as we go throughout much of the evening. Wider look, reports of multiple hail. That tornado warning still in effect until 3:15, so we still have another 15 minutes on that tornado warned storm, and the actual severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the next about, I would say 30 minutes or so. I don't have, let me check. Yeah, 3:05 is current time. Got to check that every once in a while. You lose track of time watching a lot of this. So we start to see a lot of that just very strong core. The one thing I want to mention though, this is going to be a little bit different than the entire system that came in on Wednesday. The reason being is just how fast it's moving. We're getting reports of this thing moving about 30 to 40 miles per hour, and it's speeding up. So with that in mind, the threat for that tornado to really be well developed is a little bit on the lower side, although velocity readings would tell us otherwise. We're still looking at least a very large cell as we go through much of this evening. But we're also looking at the risk for flooding to be a lot less. It's not zero, but it's certainly a bit lower, and that's exactly what we want to see. Look at that velocity reading. So it's still certainly very strong. It looks like it's kind of right in between two different types of radars. We got one to the north, one to the south. It's right in that kind of not necessarily the best area where we can get the most accurate reading. Zooming out a little bit, again, kind of pushing its way a little bit more toward Mound and Flat within the next couple of minutes or so. So if you are in those areas, you certainly want to take shelter and stay safe in any possible way that you can. Best way to do so, I mean, we got all the information for you. Actual winds around the region, beyond where the actual storm is, we're still getting reports about 20, 30 mile an hour winds just ahead of it. Gatesville, of course, is getting the most amount of winds just because they have that storm right there. What you want to do, you always want to make sure that you are ready to receive multiple alerts. You want to make sure, because we are under both watches and warnings as we go into this evening. Best way to do it, text weather to 254-777-6000. That downloads the KCEN TV app to your phone. You are able to also not just get our web article, but also watch our shows live. You can watch live streams. You can also get multiple different ways of even sending us videos through the Near Me function. Now, when you do send us videos, we would love to see them. We love to see the pictures. We'd like to feature them on the show, especially during severe weather outbreaks like this. But we also want to make sure that you are doing that when it is safe to do so. I don't want you to be a storm chaser. We don't require that here, but we do want you. We do want to see probably maybe after effects too, like any type of storm damage after the storm is gone, and it's nice and safe to do so, right, Andy?
That's right, and we're not paying extra for combat pay here. No. Rocky continues chase the storm there. You can see heavy rain coming down, headlights on. Let me switch over. Rob Kelso is our director. Rob, would you switch over? Yeah, Max 1. Here we go. What I want to show you here is this is the big storm that we've been talking about for the past hour here on the air. We've got some new development going on back to the northwest. Now here's Heiko, and we're starting to see an indication there may be the early stages of some rotation going on there. A couple of storms out here to the northwest, separate from this one, are moving towards the southeast, so you're going to need to be concerned from Cranfield's Gap. Back up to Walnut Springs and into Meridian to Clifton and eventually Laguna Shores and Lake Whitney and even the community of Whitney as these storms beginning to show up and develop even more to the north now, as well as back building to the south. So all our neighbors and friends back to the northwest, be mindful there's a second line of storms trying to get going there, while the main storm is the one that we're looking at in the vicinity of Gatesville. Basically between Gatesville and the north end of Lake Belton is where this storm is sitting right now. And sitting right there, it is going to continue trekking towards the southeast, so it's going to take it over and through portions of northern Bell County, southern McLennan County, and over towards the I-35 corridor between Waco and Temple as well. We got a watch in effect for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We got a watch in effect for San Antonio and Austin. We have a tornado warning in effect, or rather tornado watch in effect for Central Texas. Warning in effect for that storm that is moving out of the Gatesville area and heading down towards northern Bell County right now. A little wider view on that. And again, the tornado warning is in effect about another 40 minutes, if you will. Strong thunderstorms in progress here from northern Bosque County, where we're seeing the leading edge of this mother storm, on down to Gatesville and then curving back towards Lampasas. As that storm treks towards the east, it's going to affect the heart of our viewing area. The trailing end goes all the way down to the Texas Hill Country, and everything is moving back towards the east. So as we see so often, and this is almost a repeat of what we saw Wednesday night, everyone is going to be getting some very damaging winds. Good likelihood of at least small hail where you are, better likelihood of large hail of this stuff, lots of lightning, and again, the possibility storm here has got all of the ingredients to produce a tornado. We're even seeing the rotation on it. We just have not gotten confirmation on any of those funnel clouds that it has produced, making it down to the ground. If it doesn't touch the ground, it's not a tornado. It's a funnel cloud. Just the distinction that we go by. So you're getting some very heavy rain now in Lampasas and up towards Gatesville and south towards Coppers Cove. Your conditions are going to be deteriorated. It looks like the rain's already in Coppers Cove and Kempner there. It stretches on back down towards Burnett into Llano and Pontotoc in that area. Everything east of us, batten down the hatches, folks, because we got big winds coming, very heavy rains. Large hail, a good possibility, and maybe even a tornado or two before it's all over with. We still got a warning for this storm moving out of the Gatesville area across northern Fort Hood, across the area just to the north of Killeen, back over towards Oglesby in that same area along Highway 36, and eventually into the heart, the central portions of Bell County and across the southern portions of McLennan County, affecting everyone from Crawford to Lorena down towards Bruceville, Eddy, and Troy. You'll be getting this very quickly, probably within the next 45 minutes or so. If you have anything that's left in the yard that didn't get blown away 2 nights ago, gather it up now, because it's going to be flying objects before too terribly much longer as this storm comes on through. It'll trek its way towards the east, so everyone from Mahia to Groesbeck to Marlin on down to Cameron can anticipate deteriorating weather conditions for us very rapidly. Very heavy rains, strong winds in excess of 60 miles an hour already being reported. I have not seen any damage from flying debris yet from these winds, but it's still early. We'll start getting those reports once the storms get by. As Jordan was just saying, don't go out in it. So that's why we're not getting as many reports from the active area right now, because people are waiting till things settle down to go back in. Let's see, quarter to pea-sized hail being reported by ham radio operators on the east side of Lampasas. That means it's between Lampasas and Kempner and Coppers Cove, and trekking its way towards the east as well.
Yeah, and I actually have kind of pulled up almost the kind of ominous situation as this entire storm system begins to push its way into I-35. So if we jump over to Max 2, I have the look. It's actually our sky camera looking on top of our building over into downtown Temple, showing actually looking out toward the Brazos Valley. You see nice clear skies, but you can barely see the city, because it is so dark as a lot of this cloud cover begins to slowly push its way into much of the region. Now, looking out toward I-35, you start to see a little bit more of those clouds. As a matter of fact, these clouds up here, they are actually moving to the north. So what's up with that? Basically, those southerly winds, of course, the winds, when we say southerly, it means it's coming up from the south. It's actually going in to help fuel a lot of this storm. So if I move over to the other side, you can actually see just those dark, ominous clouds as they slowly begin to push their way into the I-35 corridor and into downtown Temple as well as Waco. Now, what you have here is actually, it looks like the SPC has kind of been modified a little bit, so my numbers might not be exactly perfect. But number 3, we are at a level 3 enhanced risk. That means a lot more widespread severe thunderstorms, the chance for very strong hail, winds, gusts, as well as the chance for some of those isolated tornadoes. As a matter of fact, here is a look at the severe weather threats for today. I have a very high risk of damaging hail and damaging winds. The chance for a tornado is certainly a bit lower than what I had for Wednesday, but nonetheless, here we are. We have that tornado. Heavy rain, I put at a moderate risk because some of these storms do have the chance to bring some localized flooding, but given how fast they're moving through the region, I don't have it set as too high of a threat just because that might also lead to a little bit of a better situation. So within the next hour or so, you're going to start to see, I got the Futurecast up here. We have a lot of this entire squall line kind of forming almost like what we call a bow echo. Now, this is typically the case in the Northeast, where we start to see a lot of that activity bring extremely strong and damaging winds out there. They actually call them a derecho. Or derecho. I'm not that great when it comes to words, in all honesty. I'm a scientist. So nonetheless, though, we do start to see this entire system pushing its way through Temple and Marlin, kind of pushing its way into Cameron right around 5 o'clock or so, and then making its way into the Brazos Valley. We're talking Centerville, Cameron, Franklin, College Station, right around 6 o'clock, and then it's gone. We're left with a little bit of that cloud cover going into the overnight hours, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. Nice and clear. But we've seen over the last couple of days, okay, we see it clear for one day and the next day we're back to severe weather status. Well, here's your Sunday for you. I'm going to play it through. You see next to nothing in terms of activity. That's the exact kind of situation we want to be in, where we don't have to worry too much about it. But let's also see the chance for rainfall, because we all need it. The last thing we want to have is to see a number of places not get significant rainfall. We want rainfall in a moderate sense. We don't want it to be flooding, but we also need it because we are under a significant drought situation. On your left side of your screen, you do see our chief photographer, Rocky Bridges, driving through Gatesville right now. Still seeing lots of that heavy rain. The good news is we're not seeing a whole lot of people out on the road. That's certainly some good news. If you want to download our app, text app, APP, to 254-777-6000. That's APP to 254-777-6000. You download the app for any kind of weather alerts, and also just generalized alerts for any kind of activity going on within your area all across Central Texas. I did actually just get the push notification that the Bloomin' Temple Festival has been canceled because of tonight's weather, which is unfortunate because last week we were saying it looks relatively nice for Friday, but some of these systems have been just very unpredictable over the last couple of days.
You can't trust that weather, man.
Yeah, that's why we always say, look at the 3-day, not the 7-day.
Yeah. Let's switch over to Max 1 here, because we've had development of that stuff I was telling you about a moment ago, back towards Hyco and moving into Bosque County. A severe thunderstorm warning has now been issued for that storm, and you see it right there at the center of your screen. Moving east, it is going to be affecting Meridian, Hillsborough, Hubbard, Oak Valley, as it treks on across the extreme northern tip of McLennan County and over into northern Limestone County as well. The timing on this is Meridian now, Whitney and the north end of Lake Whitney, probably about 20 minutes to 4, about 3:52 for Hillsborough, Carl's Corner on the I-35Y, almost 4 o'clock. Same thing for Leroy, Malone, Hubbard by about a quarter after 4. Dawson, Coolidge, as you get closer to the bottom of the hour, you can anticipate a storm with very damaging winds, a good likelihood, large hail as well, blinding rain, and considerable lightning. Please, this is a very serious weather situation. We please ask you to take all of this to heart and seek shelter. Please don't get out on the road and try to storm chase force because it's just not worth the threat to a loss of life and property. So please seek shelter. And this goes for just about everyone along and east of I-35 right now from Alvarado southward to Austin, basically, because the storms are to the west, but they are closing in on the I-35 corridor very rapidly, and we're going to be seeing weather just as bad as what we saw a couple of nights ago. The fortunate good news is, so far we have not had any tornadic touchdown, but we are seeing some reports of very large hail, and certainly getting indications on the Doppler radar of circulation going on in these storms and possibly the early stages of tornadic development. So we certainly urge caution this afternoon because the weather conditions are going to continue to get worse out ahead of that storm, and very likely going to see much as what we saw night before last across the area. To recap, we have a tornado watch in effect for all of Central Texas. That means everyone, all of us here, are under the risk of development of thunderstorms that could easily produce a tornado. Certainly extreme thunderstorm activity going on, and that's indicated by this red box you see here over our area. It stretches all the way over to I-45 and down south, almost into the greater Austin area. It does include Temple, right, cuts off just about where Salado is. Don't think that you're going to be out of the woods in Salado just because the box is to your north side. You see these storms, they go all the way back into the Texas Hill Country. So you're looking at very strong weather moving in, whether it's a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch to the south of us or to the north of us. We're all going to be experiencing some very heavy weather as this line of storms comes rolling all through. The reason it's here is we got the change of seasons going on. You've got cool air still trying to make its way south, while the warm air off the Gulf of Mexico in most cases is winning the battle, but we've got this is your battle line right here. We're getting some viewers photographs coming in, social media here from Fort Hood here. Okay, you're looking at Fort Hood there, low clouds near the ground. This is probably out towards Gatesville, what we were looking at earlier from Rocky Bridges camera. Very dark clouds. Everything that you're looking at is all out to the west of us. This is also going to be, if it's a tornado warned storm, that it's going to be the one near Coryell County, north of Fort Gates and north of Fort Hood. Great looking photographs coming in. Please don't just set out to bring pictures back. It's too dangerous. If you happen to be out there and you're trying to seek shelter and you can snap us a few photos, that's great. But please, this is very dangerous, and I do not condone driving out into the storms like this and chasing the storms just to get some good pictures. It's not worth it.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you think about people like us. We're not out there chasing the storms. We're indoors where it's safe. We stay away from the windows.
Oh, don't give the boss any ideas.
That's why we got Rocky out there, though. Isn't that right? Now, we do actually have that tornado warning has been extended into Bell County now. We have it up on Max 2, as you guys can see. It looks like it's just to the east of, just to the west of Flat. East and west, I mean, you mix those up in days like today.
Well, we're still talking about Highway 36 there.
Yeah,
that's the area we're talking about.
Yeah, it's still avoiding Bell County, but we still have a severe thunderstorm warning, and the tornado warning is now including places like Flat, the Grove, Moffett. It looks like Morgan's Point Resort, even as far as Nolanville and Belton. As this entire thing begins to push its way through. I'm still looking at very strong rotation, still not actually getting any reports of,
Look at this, Jordan. Switch over to Max 1 real quick. I want to show you. I have the isobars shown up on this map. It's a closed low. Take a look at that, Jordan. On the big
let's
monitor.
go.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
let's go ahead and punch up Max 1 on the screen.
got
You can
closed
see.
low. So the low is right here. And there you see the point at where all the inflow is going into there.
Right, that's exactly where we're seeing the most amount of rotation, where the actual low pressure system is as this entire storm begins to push through. So that's where we're actually getting on the velocity reading. Of course, that's why we're getting more of a large scale kind of supercell type of situation where we're not necessarily getting tornadic activity, but nonetheless, this is still, going to be the worst part of the storm when it comes to all of those storms. You get the heaviest amount of rain, you get a large hail core in the center of it. We're still getting reports anything over 2 inches in diameters is going to be rare nonetheless, so we're still getting extremely strong winds, not only just going into the storm but also leaving the storm, which does lead to damaging winds across much of the region, which has brought, of course, that severe thunderstorm warning and, of course, that tornado warning in effect for excuse me, both Coryell, what is that? No, that's not
Coryell, Bell, and McLennan counties.
Yes. Yeah, so we're still looking at, this is around the time that we said probably around 4 o'clock or so was when it's going to start to make its way through the I-35 corridor. And it's actually, the timing looks to be pretty good. And that's certainly good news. So unlike what we saw on Wednesday where the storm itself was moving rather slow, this one is picking up a little bit more speed.
At about 1:15, we were looking at the models and saying, they're showing some kind of development right now up around Comanche. And we looked at the radar. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
And it was like within a minute and a half, the Weather Service was issuing a severe thunderstorm warning on it. And then right after that, they were seeing circulation, and they bumped it up to a tornado warning for that storm. And so the computer models that we use here on the air are really syncing up very well with what's actually happening here. So as we go through the evening, very likely we're going to depend on these models very closely. Having said that, it looks like this storm line will be down in the Brazos Valley by about 9 o'clock or so, which should put Temple, Killeen, and Waco into the clear by that point. Right now, as it gets to the I-35 corridor, this is Friday afternoon. It's quitting time. It's almost 3:30. If you think I-35 is bad on a Friday afternoon now,
oh boy,
you just wait till there's blinding rain coming down and wind is tossing vehicles around across the area. It's going to be a rotten afternoon for us across here, Central Texas. So, as I said earlier, batten down the hatches.
Batten down the hatches, make sure your seatbelts are buckled.
Get off the road.
You're going to need them, yeah. I did see actually a couple reports actually from our 6 News app that just shows the importance of getting local alerts, that a couple of those schools have begun to let out early, which is certainly a good sign that a number of people are taking this weather situation very seriously, because it's around, it's 3:30 right now, or a little bit before 3:30. So you have a lot of people, parents coming to pick up their kids home from school, and the last thing you want is for them to be outside in this, or even just get caught in this on the way home. We saw the amount of damage that hail can do, depending on its size, especially across much of the entirety of what was it? I believe it was China Spring and Valley Mills on Wednesday. Yeah. We had Anchor Bailey Bates and reporter Nicole Sheeran out there, and they had multiple windows broken out of local neighborhoods, vehicles completely destroyed. That actually reminds me, it's one of those days you want to write down today's date. It is April 28th, 2023. April 28th, 2023. You want to make sure you have that down in case you do need to make any kind of insurance claim because of damage around the area, large scale types of hail. As a matter of fact, let me punch up the current hail tracks on Max 2. I can get you an idea of exactly what's really falling with this system as it begins to push its way through. Oh, here we go. Latest report says tornado on the ground in Killeen on North Fort Hood Street, confirmed by the fire department. It says that in the chat right now.
Yeah, looking at it, it just came across.
Yeah, within the minute. So that is, wow. Okay, situations change rapidly. That's for sure. So let me go ahead and actually punch up velocity reading right now. See if we can actually see it and distinguish it from the actual the low itself. Let's see. Yeah. Still seeing just a large scale, strong wind, strong rotation across much of the region. Not necessarily getting best type of reading. Let's see.
Well, I can certainly see where there's a little bit of a dry slot. It's not much of one, but
Trying to see from the fire department. Yeah, just got off this phone. Fire station North Fort Hood informed them possible tornado on the ground just south of them on Fort Hood.
so we have to figure out if that's the same storm or a different funnel.
Right.
Because there's a big difference from being on the ground in Killeen and being just south of North Fort Hood.
Yeah, so of course, as we get that information, we're going to let you know. Of course, we're getting the updates live, so we are going to keep you on the air as well as informed. I am going to pull up the hail tracks that I said I was going to do earlier.
Well, nonetheless, folks, if you're in western Bell County, around Killeen, Fort Hood, all the way up towards Flat and the Grove, please take shelter now. We're seeing considerable hail signatures showing up just to the south of Flat there on Highway 36. And everything is moving towards the southeast. This is the time that you need to go to the interior room of your home with as many walls around you as possible. Be sure you get your shoes on, stay away from windows because of flying debris that can break glass, and you don't want stepping on broken glass. So please have your shoes on. If you got a hard hat you can put on or a helmet, now's the time because this is a very serious weather event that we have in progress right now, right here in our viewing area, on or just to the north and east of Fort Hood, between Killeen and Highway 36 sounds like where the storm is. We've had reports also, and this is let me look at the statement again. Tornado on the ground in Killeen on North Fort Hood Street. This is what I'm reading.
Yes.
So that means that you possibly have a tornado in town and another one on the northern portions of the military reservation up there towards Highway 36. It's kind of what it sounds like. Reports of numerous trees down in and around the Gatesville area near County Road 146 and again to a mile southeast of Gatesville, probably along 36 in that area, $1.25 sized hail being reported.
Yeah, I'm seeing still that very large hail core right over just south of Gatesville, kind of pushing its way into Flat and the Grove right now.
Yeah, switch over to Max Max 2, would you please? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit weaker than it has a bit earlier, but I mean, nonetheless, you know, still a weak, strong storm. Sounds like an oxymoron, but it is weaker than what we originally saw. Now, of course, we still have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the next hour or so. Current time, it's 3:31. And we do have that tornado warning in effect for Coryell as well as Bell County until 4 o'clock. So again, another half an hour. Off to the left side of your screen, we have our chief photographer, Rocky Bridges. He is out there in the storm for you guys. You want to make sure that you guys are off the road. Of course, he is a professional. He does this for a living, so we're not too concerned about him. I mean, obviously we're concerned about him, but we are more concerned about you guys being out on the road.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
near Flat.
he's in Flat. He's going south on 36, heading right toward. He's in the heart of the storm. And notice that there's a lot of people not on the road right now, and for very obvious reasons too. Just because it's very difficult to see in situations like this. You get a lot of that pooling water because of the heavy rainfall across the region that can cause you to hydroplane your vehicle. Now, what do you do when you hydroplane your car? Basically, that means when the water is high enough that the wheels don't actually make it down to the road surface. So how to stop yourself in a situation like that? First thing we immediately think to do is smash the brakes. That is not what you do. That is the worst case thing you can do. You can lock up your wheels and then lose control of your vehicle. So what you want to do instead is you want to make sure that you are actually letting go of the brake or letting go of the gas, making sure the vehicle is slowing down, both hands on the wheel, and maintain control of your vehicle. Obviously, the best situation would be to not be out on the road, but hey, you know, life happens. We understand. You still want to stay indoors as best as you can. If you are in a vehicle and you are in the tornado warning area, you want to make sure that you guys are safe. You want to make sure that you are pulled over. You are inside a building, sturdy structure in the center, of course, staying outside of the region. Still very large hail core. We're starting to hear a little bit of rumbles of thunder right now outside of our station here in downtown Temple. So you can see just on the map right here, outside of the actual storm itself, I'm still getting lots of those lightning strikes. I currently have this radar to set the actual lightning strikes at about every 2 minutes and then show it before it disappears. So this is all the lightning that's been happening over the last 2 minutes, and the loop is on a 45-minute loop. So we're looking at lots of lightning. We're looking at very large-sized hail across the region, extremely strong damaging winds. This is almost like what we saw on Wednesday all over again. I keep going back to Thursday. We have so many storm systems that have been coming through a lot lately, Andy.
I want to draw your attention to the video. That's live video coming from our news unit on Highway 36. He is passed through Flat. He is now getting closing in on Grove here, on the Grove here pretty soon. I think you probably just saw the Flat Post Office over there on the left-hand side. The conditions are getting better. He's getting out ahead of the storm. He is at the leading edge of it, heading south on 36 towards Temple right now. Rain's still coming down very heavy, but behind him we've had reports from Army personnel on Fort Hood at the fire station there of large hail. The radar was indicating a possible tornado very close to them on North Fort Hood, but he could not confirm that. He was not seeing it, but the radar was indicating that there was one there. We've also had reports, but since then, the report was that there was a tornado on the ground on North Fort Hood Street in Killeen. I have not seen any additional information on that. I don't know if that is completely true or not, but certainly it is getting very bad across the north and northwest portions of Bell County right now. And weather conditions are deteriorating rapidly. As you look at the radar here, you see moderate to heavy rain all the way down towards the end of the north end of Belton Lake, where we're getting rain near Moffett and towards Morgan's Point. Here, let me get turned around here. Here's Moffett, Morgan's Point, Westcliff. This is all on Lake Belton there. So the storm is moving in your direction. Surface winds are coming out of the south, feeding up into this storm, the center of which still, according to the surface winds that are feeding into the storm, would put it just to the west of Flat. Forward motion on this dangerous thunderstorm is towards the southeast, and it is moving right towards the Temple, Belton, Killeen area. And Yes, it has shown a little bit of weakening over the last couple of scans, last 10 minutes or so, but still it's a very dangerous storm. Strong enough that we still maintain our tornado warning in effect for these areas until, what, 4 o'clock, 3:45?
The tornado warning is still in effect until 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
The severe thunderstorm warning, I believe, is in effect until 4:30.
Okay. So we anticipated this line of storms come rolling in, and it certainly is, and it's going to be stormy for several more hours before we get any improvement going on. Rotation is showing up on radar, but it's diminished a little bit. 20 minutes left on the latest warning, I believe. Yeah, pretty close to that. And we may see it extended once we get closer to that time.
Yeah, we're still seeing, I'm checking the latest reports. Most of them are saying right around Coryell County, quarter-sized hail.
Over at Copper's Cove now, too.
Copper's Cove, Fort Gates, getting about quarter-sized hail. So it seems like that the actual hail amounts are beginning to diminish a little bit, but nonetheless, or at least like the hail sizes are beginning to diminish a little bit. So that's certainly, a better situation, but still, hail is obviously not ideal considering the amount of damage it can cause all across much of the region.
What are we looking at here? Well, we're looking at the precipitation rates going on across the area and the track of the storm. And this is a huge line of storms making its way on down into the heart of central Texas here. This is the vertical velocity where we look for the winds moving into or away from the radar site, obviously. So when we're looking for the hot colors next to the cold colors, and when we see them like this, and then we're pretty certain that we got at least some beginning stages of some rotation going on between Gatesville and Killeen. Well, that's the same area we've been zoomed in on here the last 20 minutes, showing you conditions get better as you go north. We had been real concerned about storms back up here near Meridian. Those have not completely stopped, but they're moving out of our viewing area and back towards the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex at this point. We still have pretty good storms in progress across northern Bosque County and heading into northern Hill County. So all you folks, Blum, Lake Whitney, Laguna Shores, Whitney itself, and Hillsboro, all you communities along I-35 from Hillsboro to Waco, get set for some very dangerous weather moving into your area as well. You see the arrows showing up here on the radar. This is surface-based winds. These are what we call our wind particle indicators. And even the surface winds are curling into that low pressure, which is your very strong thunderstorm possible, producing a tornado there south of Gatesville and north of Killeen. Winds out of the north, that promises a pretty nice looking day tomorrow, but as we mentioned earlier, conditions are so bad tonight. If you were planning on going out to Blooming Temple this evening, that has been canceled because of the weather conditions. Watches have been whittled away a little bit. The tornado watch out to the west has been whittled down a little bit. It's not nearly as far west as it was, improving weather conditions. So we've cleared out San Saba County and western Lampasas County. We've cleared out most of Hamilton County, but still looking at most of Lampasas, Coryell, Bell, McLennan County, and most of Hill County as well, just ahead of the leading edge of this stuff, all under a tornado watch in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. And that watch stretches all the way back over to Mahia, to Groesbeck, on down towards Thornton, getting into Robertson County around Franklin is the very edge of the watch right now, and into Hearn before it turns back and goes back towards the interstate. So this is still a very large area that is under the threat of some extremely dangerous thunderstorm activity this afternoon. Here you're looking from our Skylive weather camera on the HK Dodge and Loop. This is the area we're talking about here. That's back towards Killeen and Fort Hood. Heavy dark clouds, incredible amounts of rain coming down in that area. We may even see a little bit of lightning on this shot as we watch this thing, but that's what it looks like outdoors right now. So please stay indoors, find some shelter if you are in the western portions of Bell County, and not just in Killeen, but all the way down towards Stillhouse Hollow Lake, towards Salado. You need to be getting ready, as well as this this very strong thunderstorm line is making its way into the Channel 6 viewing area from just north of Waco all the way down to south of Salado right now is where we're watching this storm very closely with the threat of high winds, damaging hail, and possible tornadoes. The rain is coming down intensely, but the storms are moving off pretty rapidly. We're not seeing as much of a flooding threat as we had been looking at the day before yesterday with the storms that came through. Another look at velocity here. The area that we're concerned is right in here, and you can see that it continues its trek on back towards the east. We're watching that pretty closely. The biggest threat we're going to see out of this stuff is damaging winds and large hail. The other threats are there, but perhaps not quite to the magnitude of what we anticipate with the winds and the hail. Go to the lowest level of your home. Put as many walls between you and the outdoors as you can for your own safety. Stay away from windows. You're going to have some flying debris in this stuff, and they'll hit a window and shatter it, and then you've got glass everywhere, so be sure you got your shoes on. If you got a helmet or even a construction hard hat, put that on. If you've got mattresses or blankets or something like that, pull that over your head to protect you as well from any flying debris that could be going on across the area. It is a very stormy afternoon. We have been in the all hands on deck mode here for about an hour, hour and a half, and it looks like we've got several more hours to go. We're looking here at video as our photographer in the news unit out on Highway 36 gets closer and closer to Temple there. Traffic is picking up. As I said, it's late afternoon on a Friday and people are heading out of town. Probably not the best time to be out on the road.
No, and it's unfortunate too that it happened to be taking place on a Friday night. But you know, the weather doesn't care about what day of the week it is. The weather's going to do what the weather's going to do.
Well, I don't want to preach or anything, but it always seems like we have these bad situations in the weather, and somebody gets out into this stuff, and we have terrible outcome, and it could have been avoided if they would just listen, pay heed. If we say stay off the roads, stay off the roads.
Right,
Please.
and it's not because we don't want you traveling. It's because it's dangerous to travel, and that's exactly why we're telling you a lot of this information. So let's go ahead.
The wrong thinking is that, well, it can't happen to me. It can't happen to you. So please heed the warnings.
It's Central Texas. We are still part of Tornado Alley. We have very flat lands. We have a lot of the right ingredients, especially during the spring and during the fall, to see a lot of this. You can really start to see this entire system pushing its way into downtown Temple. This is from the top of our weather station camera, right off of North 3rd Street. We are starting to see a lot of those very dark clouds pushing their way into our region. Strong winds from the south. They're about 16 miles per hour right now. Not too bad, but we're still very warm. So that means we do have the right ingredients to start seeing a little bit more activity. So let's go ahead and actually punch up all of these watches, warnings, advisories, you name it. So if you guys are just joining us, we are doing severe thunderstorm coverage with an active tornado warning pushing its way into Bell County. It is currently part of Coryell County now as well, with multiple severe thunderstorm warnings too. So let's go over what the actual counties are showing right now. Any county in red is under a tornado watch. Basically means any type of storm is going to have tornadic activity that is certainly possible. Any of the yellow counties, that is going to be the severe thunderstorm watch counties. Basically any type of storms could become severe. Now, severe status basically means that we start to get a lot of very strong winds, over 60-mile-per-hour gusts, and hail about the size of a quarter. It's all brought in by basically this entire low-pressure system. It's sitting right out to our west right now. You have the stalled out front sitting right over top of Central Texas, extending as far down as Houston, as well as much of the region.
Copy that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. No tornado on North Fort Hood Street in Killeen. That was erroneous information that had been passed on to the National Weather Service, and that's where we got it from.
That's certainly good news that it turned out to be, it is not actually a tornado.
Hey, the very latest, boy, you can see the rotation on this radar now. Go to Max 1 real quick, if you don't mind, Max 1. Take a look at the rotation, and it's showing up very well on our radar here. The indications are the center of this storm now close to Morgan's Point Resort on Lake Belton, and the forward motion on it is about 25 miles an hour, so it has slowed down a little bit. But my concern is when we see these storms roll over a body of water like that, they get fuel from that water and may pulse back up again. But yeah.
That's crazy. You could see just a low pressure system associated with the storm, kind of rotating it, giving it all that fuel, a lot of that energy. It's just kind of doing a little roly-poly.
Yeah, a little English on it there, like a curveball.
Curveball. You know me. I'm not a sports guy.
His little break of the wrist there is getting a little spin to that curveball. Yeah.
I have broken my wrist, so that's not always fun.
So tornado warning is still up for us till 4 o'clock this afternoon. That is not quite 15 minutes, but still nonetheless. And very likely, as we're still seeing rotation like this and we're still getting the hail production out of this storm and the winds, very likely we will see that tornado warning extended. And if it is extended, it's almost into Belton now and likely will be into Temple. Your thunderstorm and tornado warnings will continue then into the metro areas. And the sirens are going off, so yeah, there you go. You're hearing the sirens in Temple Belton right now for this storm. Again, it has slowed down in its forward progress. We can see as the surface winds are feeding into the storm. And you can, even with the untrained eye, you can see some rotation in this huge cloud cluster just from the precipitation mode. That this is a very dangerous storm. The radar was indicating the center of it was close to Morgan's Point Resort on Lake Belton, heading straight down the river towards the dam and into the Temple Belton area right now, the trailing edge on back through Killeen. To reiterate, a couple of minutes ago, we talked about getting a report of a tornado touchdown on North Fort Hood Street in Killeen. That was erroneous. That's been corrected now. But we did get reports of a very large hail across Killeen and back across North Fort Hood, south of Gatesville, towards the Grove and Flat, and moving. Now the storm is into the Lake Belton area and heading on into Killeen, Belton, and Temple as well. The serious storm, you may hear the sirens outside already going off with possible tornado. Tornado warning in effect till 4 o'clock. Likely will be extended. Warning right now is for Bell County, and still a little bit of Coryell County, but I think that can probably be whittled away here shortly. But the warning still is in effect for Bell County until 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and it looks like we're starting to get a little bit of this very strong bands pushing through the region of I-35 right into Troy right now. We're about to start hearing some pretty heavy rain across the region. We are getting, looks like, at least on Max 2, 2 different types of rotation right now. At least it could be the cellular type of rotation where we're seeing it more on a wider scale. That's going to be, again, just to the direct west of Troy and just to the south, or just to like the southeast of Lampasas. Again, you have the very large center part of the storm where we're seeing a lot of that low pressure kind of spinning around and giving a lot of activity across the area. Here's current velocity readings, still going to be a little bit more widespread. So more than likely, it's possible that this rotation is just because of the low pressure system itself, not necessarily the tornado, but nonetheless, you still want to make sure that you are taking cover. No one has actually confirmed, still no confirmed reports regarding the tornado itself on the ground. Nonetheless, though, extremely strong winds across much of the area. So we are going to make sure that you guys are safe. It is slowly starting to push its way into Morgan's Point Resort, Belton, maybe even Troy, Belco, or even Temple. Here's an idea of how strong some of those winds are right now. Wind gusts right now, only 25 miles per hour in Temple, 35 in Killeen, 36 in Gatesville. You can see where some of the strongest stuff is, and that's going to be within the actual storm. Even Burnett right now reporting about 43 mile per hour gusts. So We are currently under multiple watches as well as warnings. Watches means conditions are favorable for severe weather. Warning means that severe weather is occurring right now. So if you are in Coryell or Bell County, you want to make sure that you are taking cover now. We not only have that tornado warning in effect, but we do have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. The best way to help yourself, get to the lowest level of your home, get away from the windows. And as Andy always says, put your shoes on and cover your head. Cover up your head in any way you can. Helmet, bicycle helmet, motorcycle, hard hat, construction helmet, maybe even a mattress. Here's a good example of good safe places. Basement, interior room, stairwell, or hallway on the low floor. Now, like we said, not many people have a basement out here. Nonetheless, though, you want to make sure that, if you have a second floor, you want to make sure you're on the first floor. You want to be on the lowest floor. You want to be probably in a hallway, place where there's not a whole lot of windows, because the windows, the biggest threat with a lot of these systems is going to be extremely strong, damaging winds that can cause a lot of flying debris. The last thing you want is to be near a window and then all of a sudden you see your neighbor's lawn chair go flying through it. That's going to be the worst case situation. Even some of those outside walls, we've seen reports over decades where you have just a piece of plywood breaking through brick because the winds were strong enough. So even if you have extremely strong structures, it might not be enough. So here's an idea of how much hail we're getting within the actual storm itself too. So not only do you have the wind, but you have the extremely large sized hail. Right now, right around Flat and Meadow Grove, we're getting right about that dark blue, kind of light purple. So that's going to be right around ping pong to golf ball sized hail. Pretty similar to what we saw across the region on Wednesday. So not too much of a difference, but still going to be enough that it can cause significant damage across much of the region. So we are going to make sure that you guys are safe in situations like that. Check this out. You want to see different hail size comparisons? Yeah, this is going to be a good example right here. Basically, we see a lot of the hail tend to be about pea to maybe penny sized within a pretty strong thunderstorm. It's not enough to hit severe status. Once it hits severe status, that's going to be about quarter sized hail. So about an inch in diameter or larger. We're getting reports right now about golf ball to even almost tennis ball sized hail. The storm system that we had coming through on yesterday was Thursday. On Wednesday, we were getting softball to even grapefruit sized hail, which is exceptionally rare and certainly not the best type of situation. It causes large scale damage across the entirety of the region. Now, how does this form basically? You get those very strong winds, updrafts is what we call it. The water is frozen, of course, in the high levels of the clouds. More and more layers of water keep punching up on it. But then when the updrafts are basically weak, or the hail ends up weighing a lot more than the wind can hold it up, it basically drops it down. So we get those large sized hail situation. Here we go, live view right now outside of Temple. Going to be extremely strong winds, heavy rain across much of the region. So we are going to continue to keep our eye on that. That's looking out right now towards the Santa Fe Plaza, looking out toward Killeen and I-35. Still lots of that heavy rain. Even the camera's starting to shake a bit. So just amazing how quickly a situation can change over just a couple of minutes.
I just stepped out the back door. Winds very, very strong. The sky is green. Anytime the sky gets green, you've got hail. That's the sunlight being refracted off of the hail, the frozen hailstones in the cloud. And if it's green like that, and you can have hail, you can also have tornadoes. The good news now is that it looks like the rotation is becoming a little more diffuse, but nonetheless, it's a very dangerous storm. They're saying, the Weather Service, the Weather Service is saying if it continues to weaken, they will probably let the tornado warning for Bell County expire at 4 o'clock. I just was in contact with meteorologist Bill Heckey. He's up at the north end of Lake Belton at Stampede, extreme northern Bell County, near Moody. He's getting pea-sized hail to marble size as well. A lot of cloud to ground lightning. very heavy rains. Rain has been coming down to the point of approximately 2 inches per hour across Bell County, so it's very likely we will see a flash flood warning for Bell County as well. Our photographer, Rocky Bridges, you see his video there. That's live from a camera mounted on his dashboard, obviously. He is coming into Temple from the Grove right now, so that's basically the extreme northern end of Lake Belton. He is experiencing pea-sized hail and marble-sized hail as well, and very heavy rains. Did you go look out the back door there, Jordan? Yeah, it's as dark as midnight outside right now, and green. Very, very green. The storm is bearing down. The center of this storm is almost on top of Temple. It's moving across Lake Belton. Please heed our warnings. Please find shelter right now, because this is a very dangerous storm. Even if it does not have a tornado, it's certainly going to have some blowing debris, because we're seeing the winds so strong across the area right now. Bill Heckey up at the Whitehall Stampede area, which is pretty close to where Rocky is there, is reporting intense lightning, mostly in the clouds, no significant wind damage, and nothing of the severe criteria just as yet on that side of the storm. But that is on the front left side of the storm as it's coming in. It's the right rear portion of the storm that's always the most dangerous, and that is the part that is spinning across the Belton Dam now and heading on into the western portions of Temple at this hour, pretty close to where our video is coming from as he's coming south on Highway 36 there. That's Rocky Bridges in one of our news units coming in. Please, we would love to see your photographs, your video, but please don't put yourself into harm's way by trying to get it. We want you to stay safe. This is too dangerous a situation. We've had the sirens go off here in Temple this afternoon because of the threat of a tornado. And the threat is still very, very real. So please be extremely cautious this afternoon. A very volatile weather situation. We'll stay with you here as long as that tornado warning stays up for us. Be mindful that the tornado watch is in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. That means the atmosphere is still very ripe for severe weather development. As this line of storms goes through, we could see more development out to the west of us. We saw that happening out across northern Hamilton County with storms that blew through most of Bosque County and into Hill County now, but those are kind of taken more of a turn towards the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They are strong. There's a severe thunderstorm warning for those storms up to the north, but they're not as severe as what we have rolling right into Killeen, Nolanville, Harker Heights, Belton, and Temple at this hour. Still showing broad rotation in that storm, and at least some small hail.
Yeah, you're starting to hear a lot of the heavy rain come down here on our studio here in downtown Temple. The good news is, I mean, we're getting reports of the hail, but a lot of the hail is a lot smaller than what we saw on Wednesday. So that's certainly some good news. Still getting plenty of lightning within the actual storm itself. I do have the velocity pulled up right now. I'm not getting any very defined readings of rotation. It's just more broad scale rotation as it's pushing its way right along, looks like Highway 36. Coming down from the Grove into our downtown Temple. So that's certainly some better news. We still have that tornado warning. It should be expiring within any minute. I'm not getting any reports, excuse me, that they are likely to renew that right now. Just considering it's more broad scale rotation within the storm, but you're still going to expect some extremely strong winds. You know, anything like any of the rain that's going to come down, it's going to be sideways rain. It's going to reduce visibility significantly. So we want to make sure that you guys are safe. You are out of harm's way. We don't want you on these roads right now. Even though these storms are pretty fast moving, it's going to be enough that you're going to start to see a lot more widespread flooding, especially with the very strong part of this entire system, which is sitting right on top of, it looks like Killeen right now is right on top of the hail core. So we're Nolanville as well, even Belton might start to get a bit more of that purple. That's going to be that extremely heavy rain, and also the heaviest of the hail. Looks like at least the lightning readings on this have gone down a bit, but that's still, you know, no exception. You still want to make sure that you are getting, you still want to make sure that you are inside. You know, even if the storm itself does appear to be weakening ever so slightly, you want to make sure that you are always informed. Best way to be informed is by downloading the 6 News app, so you can get all your weather alerts as well as local alerts regarding anything like school closures or any type of events getting canceled because of weather. Best way to do it, text app APP to 254-777-6000. That's APP to 254-777-6000. You can also use that to send us your pictures, your videos, or even just tag us on social media. We'll be able to feature that on our show. But here's the thing, when it comes to getting us pictures, we want to make sure that you are safe. Maybe get pictures of the damage afterwards. Maybe you are, you know, obviously in a very covered area and you want to show us video of hail. We always do appreciate stuff like that. We want to make sure that you guys are safe and taking it nice and easy out there. Here we go. We got a lot of that hail, as well as very strong, heavy rain pushing its way into downtown Temple. Right now, I'm not getting a whole lot of the actual tracking because it's moving so fast that every time I put a track on it, it continues to move a little bit faster. We are getting a little bit of that rotation, but it's that very broad scale rotation just to the north of Temple, in between Temple and Troy, right along I-35. That tornado warning, it's still going to stay in effect, but it should have expired at this point. We do also have severe thunderstorm warning due to extremely strong winds across the region. Lots of that heavy rain, and also about quarter-sized hail or large, so about 1 inch in diameter or bigger. Here's the idea of the actual velocity reading right there. Again, it's more broad scale rotation, and nothing necessarily extremely strong within the region, so that's certainly some good news, but we are going to still continue to keep our eyes on it, considering just how large scale this entire system is. Current winds right now, Killeen, even though Killeen is not under any type of actual warning, they were getting about 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts at that time. You just saw it. It has gone down. Temple's right now still about 28-mile-per-hour wind gusts, so still extremely strong winds across the entirety of the region. Yes, Andy?
I'm seeing a pulse up of a thunderstorm just to the south of Highway 190, Interstate 14, that may be responsible for those winds there at Killeen. It's just to the south. Southwest of Nolanville. You can see it on, yeah, there you go, on Max 1. It looks like the tornado warning for Bell County will be allowed to expire. They're not saying anything about renewing it now because it had weakened some. We've been very fortunate, although we have had suggestions of rotation on Doppler radar. No one's been able to confirm a touchdown of a tornado anywhere, with the possible exception of on Fort Hood, the north end of Fort Hood there may have. We'll have to check into that later, but certainly seeing some strong rotation rolling right over the north side of Temple. Very heavy rains. It is as dark as midnight out right now, and we're in downtown Temple, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it looks like about 1 o'clock in the morning outside. It is very windy, very heavy rain coming down across the region right now, and more of it is on the way for us for next, I would say at least the next 45 minutes or so. So flash flood warning has been issued for approximately 2 inches of rain already across Bell County. Turn around, don't drown. We're gonna have water across roads. The rain is coming down so fast that the municipal drainage systems cannot handle it. It's just best to stay in until this stuff passes. will once again remind everyone that had plans on going to Blooming Temple. That has been canceled because of the weather conditions. Very heavy rains continue to fall. The heaviest seems to be right over downtown Temple now, and just about to make its way over Stillhouse Hollow Lake to the south of Nolanville and to the south of Belton there. It's blinding rain falling from near, well, just this side of Crawford down 317 to Moody and into Belton. It is almost blinding rain right now, so please stay indoors and stay away from the windows, because this rain is being accompanied with very strong winds of 40 to 50, and in some cases gusts to better than 60 miles an hour. If there's anything laying on the ground, it becomes a projectile. You have flying debris, a very likely scenario in this kind of activity that we're looking at across central Texas. So please exercise caution. I would have to say that in my 50 years of broadcasting, my greatest disappointment is that tragedy strikes when people have been warned and they did not heed those warnings. So please don't feel so confident that disaster cannot touch you, because it can. And please be careful out this afternoon or this evening, as this is still ongoing. It has not come to an end yet, even though we have improving weather conditions for Gatesville and Lampasas and points westward. The situation is such that we could see some redevelopment out to the west, because the front itself is not here yet. This is just kind of like a leading edge of the low pressure system, one of the spokes in the wheel that are spinning around. A little troughing as a low pressure is sweeping through Bell County now with some very dangerous weather. And the cold front itself is still out to the west of it. It's still yet to come through our area. So a very rocky night on the way for us this evening. We have severe thunderstorm warning remaining in effect for Bell County, even though we have canceled the tornado warning. The severe thunderstorm warning will continue. Very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, as my colleague Bill Heckey, who was out the north part of Bell County, was reporting. Initially, a lot of it was cloud to ground lightning. Now most of it seems to be inside the cloud to cloud lightning, which is still a dangerous situation, but better for us down here on the surface. Very heavy rain. You can hear constant drumming of rain going on the roof at this point, and very strong winds going on as well.
I will say I am a little bit surprised with the way that this entire line has developed. It's all kind of developed a little bit to the south of Waco. If we go on to Max 2, you can kind of see the wider picture here, and how it originally started out right around Hamilton, which is exactly where we got our first severe thunderstorm warning, and we got that first tornado warning, and it has extended its way farther down now into downtown Temple, into Bruceville Eddy, but it has completely avoided downtown Waco. It looks like Waco's still certainly getting some rain based off the readings here, but that's going to be about it. Now I am watching this other little northerly part that kind of just popped up right through Meridian, kind of pushing its way into Hill County as well as Hillsborough. I'm getting a little bit of lightning. Looks like there's a small hail core in the middle with a lot of that pink reading off of that, but it looks like at least the worst of it is sitting right over top of Temple and Killeen right now, and it's still going to continue to push its way farther to the southeast as we go into the later parts of the evening, right around Marlin, Franklin, pushing its way toward I-45 and the Brazos Valley. We're going to keep our eye on that throughout much of the evening. Severe thunderstorm warning is currently in effect for much of Coryell as well as Bell County. Most of it is, of course, in Bell County. It looks like they have now extended one into McLennan County. That is going to be in effect until about 4:30 this afternoon, so still another half an hour or so. Biggest part of the hail core is actually kind of diminished. It was right over top of Flat in the Grove. It has now kind of basically fallen flat almost, right now sitting over top of Morgan's Point Resort, Moffett, and pushing its way into downtown Temple. Biggest hail core I'm seeing right now is actually the one right on top of Killeen, and even then it's beginning to weaken a good bit. I'm not getting a whole lot of information, at least according on tracks right now. I am getting some supercell rotation just to the north of Temple. That's just going to be the general rotation, though. We're not looking at any type of tornadic rotation right now. Obviously, that tornado warning has since expired, but we are still going to keep our eye on that as we go into this evening. Right now, you can see we just had that severe thunderstorm warning in effect. I am getting just, again, some general rotation right around Belco, but that's just going to be generalized. Of course, a lot of these large-scale supercells tend to have large-scale rotation. When it becomes more of a fixed point, that's when that point can come down as a funnel, and that's where you get more of that tornadic activity. Again, right now, just more broad scale rotation, not too much more than that, but we're still getting extremely strong winds, 48-mile-per-hour wind gusts right now out of Temple. Same goes for Marlin. Marlin's starting to get a little bit more of that activity as well. Killeen is beginning to calm down ever so slightly, down to about 31 miles per hour. Georgetown, it is picking up a little bit, right about 26, as this entire system begins pushing through. Let's go over watch warnings once again. Watch means basically your area is going to possibly expect some type of severe weather. That could be anything from a tornado watch. You could expect tornadic activity to a severe thunderstorm watch. You could expect some of these thunderstorms to go severe. Now, we are also going to be going some warnings. If you have a tornado warning, that basically means, hey, the tornado has been seen either on the ground by trained spotters or on radar by confirmed it's a tornadic rotation. So that tornado warning that we've been covering throughout much of today, yes, it has been confirmed on radar that it was a tornado. But again, on the ground, people have not been able to catch anything. After this entire system passes, the National Weather Service will go out and they will assess a little bit of that storm damage. So you will start to see a little bit more activity. We'll be sure to report that, of course, over this weekend. I'll make sure to keep you informed as well. Probably give you some updates on social media. Now, best thing to do in severe weather, you want to make sure that, well, number one, you're off the road. What we've been seeing a lot lately is a lot of people just out on the road when they shouldn't be, and you get a lot of this flash flooding. There's currently flash flood warnings for Bell County, as well as I believe it is extending into McLennan County, as well as Coryell County too, where we've seen the heaviest of that rain, where we've seen a lot of that hail, where we've seen the strongest of winds, low visibility. You know, your vehicle could get stuck, and that's the last thing you want to do. Is it's pouring down rain, there's hail, there's really strong winds, and then you can't go anywhere. You can't even make it home. And a lot of these emergency crews are going to be out there constantly throughout today, and they might not be able to get to you as quickly because other people make the similar kind of mistake. We want to try to avoid that entirely. Again, get the lowest level of your home. That's going to be the best type of situation. Get away from the windows. You want to make sure that you put your shoes on, and of course that you cover your head. Best place to go. Give me your basement, your interior room, your stairwell, or even just a hallway on the low floor. You have options to choose from. Obviously, not everyone has a basement. Not everyone has a stairwell either, but you want to make sure that you are low. If you're in an apartment complex, maybe you might want to make sure that you are, again, kind of in the central portion of your building. Yes, Chief Meteorologist Andy Anderson.
Well, I'm getting reports that the Killeen Police Department are closing off portions of the interstate 14, East Central Texas Expressway, because we got water across the roads there. So again, turn around, don't drown, don't get out into this stuff, don't drive around in it. Please be extremely careful. Good news, National Weather Service has now canceled the severe thunderstorm warning that had been in effect for Bell, Coryell, and McLennan County. So we will take a break here. Get ready. We got a newscast coming up in 45 minutes. We got to throw something together for that. Till then, this is Chief Meteorologist Andy Anderson with meteorologist Jordan Frazier. Stay tuned to 6 News. We will keep you ahead of the storm.